2 Translation Channel. Chapter 4, This is a Good Thing. A study within Mirror Lake Meng Manor. After practicing for an entire day, even though Meng Chuan remained energetic and excited, he still had to rest due to the exhaustion of his quintessential energy. He came to the study room to begin what he did every day, painting. There was a piece of paper lying on the tabletop, and beside it, a beautiful color palette. All the paint was of high quality. Meng Chuan put his heart into painting. He had fallen in love with painting since he was young. Perhaps it was because his mother was good at painting and had taught him how to draw. This was what he loved the most when he was young. Imagine a 3-year-old child painting for nearly 8 hours straight, to the point he forewent his meals without complaining about fatigue. He would still laugh happily despite his paint-covered body. His mother had said, "My son is extremely talented. He will definitely become the #1 artist in the world. Every painting will be worth its weight in gold." He was born in the Meng family, his parents doted on him, so he was carefree. However, when he was 6, over 100,000 people had died in a great catastrophe. His mother was no exception. After his parents protected him with all their might and retreated to East Com Prefecture, he focused on cultivating. However, he would still draw for 2 hours every day. Whenever he drew, he would forget about his fatigue from cultivation. He felt as though he had returned to a time when he was young. His mother would give him pointers, and his mind would be incomparably peaceful. Now, he was 15 years old. After painting for over a decade, and being taught by several accomplished artists, he had long surpassed his teachers. His mother had been right. His talent was indeed outstanding, at least higher than his talent towards saber arts. But what use was that? Could the best artist slay demons? Knock. 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 There was an urgent knock on the door outside the study. Huh? Meng Chuan looked outside curiously. No one disturbs me when I'm usually painting. What's going on? He put down the brush, then opened the door. His father, Meng Dejiang, was standing outside. His normal jovial smile was gone, his current expression was rather solemn. "Chuaner, quickly follow me to the ancestral mansion," said Meng Dejiang. "Okay." He immediately followed his father without hesitating. "Dad, why have you been frequently visiting the ancestral mansion recently?" "It's nothing." Meng Dejiang didn't elaborate. "Then why are we heading to the ancestral mansion now?" Meng Chuan asked again. As a junior, he paid a small handful of visits to the ancestral mansion annually. Meng Dejiang glanced at his son and said, "It's about your engagement with Yun Qingping. We decided to annul the engagement after a discussion between our families." "Annul the engagement?" Meng Chuan was shocked. "Dad, why is it suddenly being annulled?" "You can't bear to have it annulled." Meng Dejiang looked at his son. "Not at all." Meng Chuan immediately shook his head. "I only meet Yun Qingping once every few months. Our personalities don't match, so annulling the engagement is a good thing for me." He was only 15 this year, he didn't know anything about love. He saw Yun Qingping as a familiar and willful younger sister. Nothing more. "It's good that you think that way." "Our families have already agreed to annul the engagement," said Meng Dejiang. "When we reach the ancestral mansion, you just have to listen. Don't speak too much." Meng Chuan nodded. "Yes." The Meng family's ancestral mansion was situated in East Com's western district. It occupied a very large area. More than 2,000 clansmen resided there. From the center of their occupied land, over half a kilometer could be traversed from south to north. The Meng family's foundation was in the countryside. Due to the threat of demons, people in the countryside combined forts to protect themselves. Each fort had thousands of people inside. It was very common for the same clan to gather in one fort. After a millennium of reproduction, the Meng family had 3 large forts and numbered over 10,000 people. There were few clans this large in East Com Prefecture. The special thing about the Meng family was that they had a god fiend. They immediately became one of the 5 major God-Fiend family clans with the highest status in East Com Prefecture. Elder. Elder. The ancestral mansion was very orderly. Some of the patrolling clan members bowed and greeted Meng Dejiang respectfully when they saw the duo. Meng Dejiang was one of the 3 strongest members of the Meng family. He was still considered young and had a sliver of hope of becoming a God-Fiend. He was to be the family's next clan leader. MMM. Meng Chuan followed his father into the guest hall. Several people were already seated on both sides of the hall. On one side were those from the Meng family and the other the Yun family. However, the atmosphere was clearly not quite right. At a glance, Meng Chuan could tell that the elders from his family didn't look too good. Brother Dejiang is here. Yun Fuan stood up and smiled. Have you brought the marriage agreement? Yes. Meng Dejiang nodded slightly. Yun Fuan smiled and said, the other elders have no objections to the annulment of the engagement. I believe it's the same for you, am I right, Brother Dejiang? Meng Dejiang stood there and laughed. If both families have the intention of building close ties through marriage, that will be nice. However, since there's no intent, it's better to annul the engagement early. This is the marriage agreement. He took out a scroll and handed it to Yun Fuan with both hands. After Yun Fuan received the scroll, he unfurled it and took a closer look. He nodded slightly after seeing the names signed on it. It was indeed the marriage agreement from before. The 2 ancestors' handwriting couldn't be forged. Yun Fuan, please tear the marriage agreement apart right here, said a bald, thin elder from the Meng family. Haha. Are you worried that I'll bring it back, and await a critical moment before using it to force Meng Chuan to marry my daughter? Yun Fuan laughed. Don't worry, I won't do anything that shameless. As he said that, Yun Fuan tore the marriage agreement. I've already torn the marriage agreement, everyone can bear witness. All of you can be at ease now. Yun Fuan smiled as his gaze swept across the Meng family elders. I won't intrude any longer. He walked out as he spoke. The other Yun family members followed behind him. When he passed where Meng Chuan was, Yun Fuan stopped and smiled. My dear nephew, take heed. You are no longer related to my daughter, Qingping, anymore. Yes, 0 ties, replied Meng Chuan. Only then did Yun Fuan nod his head and lead everyone away. Meng Dejiang watched as Yun Fuan left and frowned slightly. He calmly said, Chuaner, the engagement has been annulled. You can return. I still have matters that need attending to. Yes. Meng Chuan glanced at the elders and left obediently. Thud. The door to the hall closed. The hall remained bright through candle illumination. What bullies. They're too much. The bald, thin elder's walking stick slammed onto the ground, producing a mildly deafening thud. It appeared like we were negotiating, but in reality, we had no choice at all. Could we thicken our skin and go through with the marriage alliance? A swarthy elder sneered. If we dared to cook up a storm at the Yun family, we will probably be slapped to death by the Yun family's patriarch. Having the engagement annulled is also good. Would it be of any use to use the engagement to force the Yun family's hand when it's just the marriage between 2 juniors? The Yun family would just bear a grudge against us. A marriage alliance is to aid one another. It's better not to ally if we were enemies. This marriage is honestly trivial to our Meng family. Third cis injuries are what has shaken our Meng family's foundation. An elegant elder looked at the fat elder above them. Clan leader, can't we treat third cis injuries? The fat elder frowned. Third sister will return to Eastcom in 2 days. We'll talk about it when that happens. Meng Dejiang listened and frowned. The Meng family's pillar was on the verge of collapsing. The Meng family elders were also worried. The Meng family kept the news secret, and only the elders knew about it. If such news spread, over 10,000 clan members would be thrown into a state of panic. It would only add to their troubles. Now, the upper echelons of the other 4 God-Fiend family clans also knew, but they didn't spread it either. They were afraid that ignorant juniors would anger the Meng family. After all, Fairy Meng wasn't dead yet. Even if she was dead, she had many God-fiend friends. However, her God-fiend friends wouldn't interfere as long as one didn't go overboard. Without a God-fiend, the Meng family would not be able to bear many of the heavy responsibilities. They naturally wouldn't be able to enjoy so much power if they couldn't bear their responsibilities. Responsibility and power were equal. From lowly mortals to esteemed God-fiends, presently, nobody could escape responsibility. As long as a mortal reached the marrow cleansing realm, they would have to serve in the military for 5 years at the age of 20 regardless of gender. Only half would return alive. However, people still wanted to reach the marrow cleansing realm because the rules of the imperial court forbade them from many occupations if they were so weak that they held little value to the military. They could only be bottom feeders, living the most pitiful lives. As for God-fiends, they were the backbone of humanity. Every single God-fiend had spent their entire lives fighting and protecting. Even if they returned to their hometown to rest, they had to guard their hometown's city. As a result, God-fiends were illustrious and exalted. Their family clans bathed in their glory. When God-fiends passed away or were unable to take on such a heavy responsibility, their family clan would retire from the important positions they occupied. It was almost dark when Meng Chuan arrived home. Chuan, quickly have dinner. I heard that you and Uncle Meng went to the ancestral mansion. I thought you weren't coming back for dinner today. Lu Qia was sitting while eating porridge and pastries. Meng Chuan sat across from her, and a maidservant brought over a bowl of porridge. He drank some porridge as his mind wandered. Why aren't you talking? What happened? Lu Qia asked. Oh. After snapping back to his senses, Meng Chuan casually said, our families have decided to annul my engagement with Yun Qingping after discussions. Annul the engagement. Lu Qia's eyes lit up. Yes, it just happened. The marriage agreement was torn apart on the spot. Meng Chuan nodded. Lu Qia carefully observed him and asked, why? Are you very sad about annulling the engagement? Why are you drinking porridge in a daze? No. Meng Chuan shook his head immediately. It's not like you aren't aware that Yun Qingping and I don't click. She's happy to annul the engagement and I'm relieved too. This is a good thing for both of us. How can I be sad? Then why are you in a daze? Lu Qia asked. I just feel like something isn't right, said Meng Chuan with a frown. The engagement was made personally by the two ancestors back then. Even if they came to annul the engagement, the Yun family would have at least sent their 3 heroes. This is the most basic form of respect for my Meng family. However, they sent only Yun Fuan, the 5th and most useless child. Isn't he looking down on my Meng family? This is my first doubt. Secondly, the clan leader and the elders had ugly looks on their faces inside the hall. But from beginning to end, they held back. Since when did the clan leader have such a good temper? Thirdly, Yun Fuan usually has a funning, lowly attitude when in front of my father and the rest. But today, he was much more insolent. What instigated such behavior? Most importantly, there must be a reason behind the annulment. What caused the engagement, agreed between the two ancestors, to be annulled? Meng Chuan looked at Lu Qia. I'm guessing that either the Yun family has obtained a huge backer or it's because of my Meng family. Lu Qia was shocked. Chuan, I really can't figure out how you thought about all this at once. It's just wild speculation. Since Dad didn't tell me, he naturally has his reasons. Meng Chuan smiled. To think that the person whose engagement was just annulled can still smile. Hurry up and eat your pastry, Lu Qia urged with a smile. Yes, yes. Meng Chuan immediately picked up the pastries and started eating. Chapter 5, The Return of the Ancestor. February 9th, in Amur outside East Com City. The sky was gloomy. Screech. A bird's melodious cry rang out. A giant bird bathed in thunder swooped down from the clouds. On its back sat two figures. Boom. As the flying bird approached the ground, the entire wilderness trembled as lightning blasted out from its massive wings. Lightning bolts snaked into the distance before dissipating. Two figures descended from the bird's back. One was a middle-aged woman, the other an elderly woman holding a walking stick. Junior Sister Huang, you don't have to accompany me any further now that I'm back in my hometown. Go back, said the old lady with a smile as she supported herself with the walking stick. Sister Meng. The middle-aged woman's eyes welled with tears. Her sister Meng wasn't this old in the past. Her severe injuries showed her age. However, one could still tell that she had been a beauty when she was younger. I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to meet again after this farewell, said the old woman with a happy sigh. However, I think I have it okay. At least I can return to my hometown before I die and spend the last few years here. Those who died in battle are nothing but piles of dust. Sister Meng, just send a letter if you need my help. I, Huang Xiangning, will do my best, said the middle-aged woman solemnly. I'll do so if it's needed. The old woman smiled. All right, hurry back. The middle-aged woman carefully glanced at the old woman before finally jumping onto the avian creature's back. Soon, the bird flapped its wings and lightning filled the void. Whoosh. With lightning and thunder following, the avian creature soared into the sky and disappeared into the horizon. The old lady watched her companion leave before turning to look at East Com City. She smiled. It's time to go home. The heavens have treated me well, having allowed me to return to my roots. Dong. Ripples surrounded the old lady when she tapped the ground lightly with her walking stick. Numerous ripples spread out in all directions, enveloping a 1,000 feet radius. She held her walking stick as she walked towards East Com City, completely covered by the ripples. Every step she took covered hundreds of feet. Nobody seemed to notice her, even when she walked past some traveling merchants along the way. They continued to laugh and chat. She arrived at the city gates moments later. East Com City. The old woman held her walking stick and stared at the majestic city before her. This was her hometown, the place she lived when she was young. The old woman smiled as she continued to advance. Despite the huge number of people at the gates, nobody saw the old woman, including the guards. It was as if she didn't exist. She walked through the streets and arrived at the Meng family's ancestral mansion. She entered the ancestral mansion. Many clansmen were patrolling the ancestral mansion, but likewise, none of them could see the old woman. Gulp. 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 Inside one of the courtyards of the ancestral mansion, a fat elder was drinking in low spirits. Ping ping, is that some secret drinking I spy? A voice rang out in the courtyard. The fat elder shuddered in fear. He looked around and couldn't help but ask, Third sis, is that you? Third sis. A smiling old woman with a walking stick appeared out of thin air in the courtyard. Third sis. The fat elder's eyes turned red. He was Fairy Meng's only younger brother. The other family elders addressed her as Third Sis out of practicality. The family clan was too large with its millennium-long history. Many members of the family were separated by a few generations. The fat elder's name was Meng Yanping, the current clan leader of the Meng family. He was about 20 years younger than Fairy Meng. Therefore, he was brought up by Fairy Meng when he was young. He treated her as both his sister and mother. In his heart, his sister had always been young, beautiful, and omnipotent. Now, she had aged so much. Why are you crying? Am I not living well? Said the old woman with a smile. Third sis, are you really unable to treat your injuries? Asked the fat elder. As long as I don't fight with full strength, I should stay alive for another 8 years, the old woman said calmly. Humans are affected by sickness and death, and god fiends similarly have a limited lifespan. What's there to be said about? The next few years give me plenty of time to put the Meng family back on track. Did anything happen when news about my severe injuries reached East Com Prefecture? Our family annulled the engagement with the Yun family. It's the engagement of that little fellow, Meng Chuan, said the fat elder. As for the rest, the 4 God-fiend family clans only engaged in some cheap tricks. They didn't dare to truly provoke our Meng family. Yes. Back then, Yun Wanhai wanted to use our family's engagement as a way to better his family. Now that I'm seriously injured, it's not surprising that he cancelled his engagement. The old lady instructed, right, Ping Ping. Third sis, I'm already 90 years old. I'm the Meng family's clan leader. Can you call me by my actual name? The fat elder couldn't help but lament. Oh, all right, all right. I won't embarrass you, said the old woman with a smile. Meng Ping Ping, gather all the clan elders to the blazing fire hall. I want to meet them. What Meng Ping Ping? My name is Meng Yanping, the fat elder mumbled as he quickly went to gather the elders. His sister was like his mother who had brought him up. She protected him and allowed him to come this far. Hearing his elder sister call him Ping Ping made clan leader Yanping walk with a bounce in his step. The Meng family's ancestral mansion, the blazing fire hall. Only the most important matters regarding the family clan would reach here. The area around the blazing fire hall was heavily guarded today. In the main hall, Fairy Meng stood there with her walking stick. She looked at the plaque in the hall, blazing fire. The clan leader and the elders all stood respectfully, not daring to make a sound. In terms of age, Fairy Meng was 112 years old this year. She was the oldest in the family. In terms of strength, Fairy Meng had become a god fiend at 35. She had protected the Meng family for nearly 80 years and the Meng family had flourished for 80 years. There was no doubt about the prestige she held in the Meng family. With a single order, many clansmen would not hesitate dying. After staring at the words, blazing fire, on the plaque for a long time, Fairy Meng turned around. Her gaze swept across all the elders present. All the elders bowed nervously. Are there any talents in our Meng family's younger generation, ones who have a chance of becoming a god fiend? Inquired Fairy Meng. Although the Meng family had been rooted in East Com Prefecture for more than 1,000 years, it had only produced 2 god fiends. One was Patriarch Yushin from 500 years ago, while the other was Fairy Meng. Their eras allowed the Meng family to reach its peak. What Fairy Meng wanted the most was to be able to nurture a 3rd god fiend in the history of the family clan. Initially, she could have patiently searched for a suitable junior worth nurturing. However, time was of the essence, and she could only choose from whoever was available. Daejiang is quite talented. He figured out the saber's secret technique at 19 and gained insights into saber force at the age of 30. Now, he's only 47 years old. There's a sliver of hope for him to become a god fiend, said a bald elder. Daejiang. Fairy Meng looked at the Meng Daejiang. And the plump Meng Daejiang immediately bowed. Have you condensed your core? Asked Fairy Meng. Meng Daejiang shook his head. Fairy Meng frowned. To not condense a core at age 47 made his chances of becoming a god fiend very slim. What about the young ones? Pressed Fairy Meng. Among the young ones, 3 of them are not bad, said clan leader Meng Yanping immediately. Meng Zhu is 23 this year and at the Seamless Realm. He is in the midst of military service at Kinyang Pass. He figured out the secret technique at 19. And there's Meng Waniang. She's 16 and she achieved greater mastery of a top-notch sword art at 12. There's also Daejiang's son, Meng Chuan. He is 15 this year, achieving greater mastery of a top-notch saber art at 13. Meng Waniang and Meng Chuan are both young, but they haven't figured out the secret technique yet. Fairy Meng fell silent. Meng Zhu had only figured out the secret technique when he was 19. This was very late for those becoming god fiends. This was because it was unknown when he would gain insight into force. By the time that happened, the chances of him becoming a god fiend became even more distant. Meng Wanniang and Meng Chuan, one was 16, while the other was 15. Time was tight, and they had yet to grasp the key secret technique. Even if she wanted to choose from second best, they couldn't be considered as good. All of you can go back, said Fairy Meng coldly. For the next few years, the juniors of the entire family clan will receive better nurturing. This is an important matter for the family clan. Nothing else supersedes this in importance. Before I die, I want to see a seedling who has a chance of becoming a god fiend. Clearly, she didn't see any outstanding seedlings. All she could do was spread the net, hoping for the 9 to 12-year-olds to become geniuses. Yes, the clan leader and the elders replied in unison. This matter involves the rise and fall of the family, so there's no room for delay. If anyone were to siphon off the benefits while this happens, they will be punished as per the family's rules. After Fairy Meng said that, she walked out with her walking stick. Chapter 6, Nurturing. The Meng family's ancestral mansion bustled with activity as people lined up to collect their treasured pills. That's plenty. So many pills were given out. The clansmen who obtained the treasured pills were astonished. A woman held her 7-year-old daughter's hand and received her daughter's monthly cultivation resources. She was also shocked. Previously, my daughter only received 3 taels of silver a month and a lifeblood pill. Now, she's getting 30 taels of silver and 10 lifeblood pills. She can consume a lifeblood pill once every 3 days. Her daughter was only 7. She didn't focus on cultivation and was given only the most basic resources the family clan gave the younger generation. Yet, her quota had increased tremendously. Everyone, the clan leader has personally announced that from this month onwards, all clan members below the age of 20 will receive 10 times the amount of pills and silver every month. The clan members who were responsible for distributing the resources also began to explain. This soon spread, turning the clansmen in the Meng family ancestral mansion ebullient. The family clan juniors were divided into 5 levels according to their cultivation progress. For example, Meng Wanniang and Meng Chuan were at the top of the list. They were specially nurtured. There were also the 2nd and 3rd levels. And now, the most ordinary juniors received 30 taels of silver and 10 lifeblood pills a month. Clan leader, the clan has at least 2,000 people who are between the ages of 6 and 20. Can the family support such levels of distribution? Asked one of the old servants worriedly. Clan leader Meng Yanping stood in the distance and watched clansmen collecting their quotas. He said calmly, "Don't worry. The clan's savings are enough to handle another 10 years of such distribution." The old servant was a little worried. The income of a god-fiend clan was astonishing, but its expenses were similarly huge. Now, the clan was desperately trying to groom a new generation of cultivators. They were nurturing them with everything for the next 10 years. They were throwing resources at the younger generation in hopes of producing a sapling who had a chance of becoming a god fiend. At the Mirror Lake Meng Manor, Meng Dejiang led a dozen people back to the manor. "Master." The servants were very respectful. "Where's Chuaner?" Meng Dejiang asked. "Young master is at the training grounds," the servants replied respectfully. Meng Dejiang frowned and looked up at the sky. The sun was setting in the west and it was almost 5 in the evening. Why is he still practicing at this time? He led an entourage to the training grounds. He vaguely heard the sound of a saber whistling through the air. He waved his hand and ordered in a low voice, "Wait here." With that said, he quietly walked closer. He looked through the windows surrounding the training ground. He saw a young man's blurry figure hidden within the saber flashes, practicing the falling leaf saber. "Qian Feng." Meng Dejiang beckoned for a middle-aged man not far away. Qian Feng, who was an old servant who served Meng Chuan, quickly walked over. "Tell me," Meng Dejiang said with a suppressed voice, how long has Chuaner been practicing his saber art today? Master, young master started practicing his saber art early in the morning. Besides eating and resting, he hasn't stopped. Qianfeng said immediately. He practiced for so long. Meng Dejiang frowned. Even after soaking in a herbal bath at night, the young master will continue practicing his saber art in his courtyard for 2 further hours. Qianfeng couldn't help but say, for the past few days. Other than eating, sleeping, painting, taking a medicinal bath, and undergoing marrow cleansing cultivation, he practices his saber art for roughly 12 to 14 hours every day. For the past few days. Meng Dejiang murmured. In the past few days? What could have agitated his son so much into such crazy training? The engagement annulment? Yes, for the past few days. Qianfeng said. Just before that, young master was still in a good mood. He even got me to buy some godfiend biographies and didn't cultivate so crazily. But I've no idea what happened over the past few days. My attempts in persuasion fell on deaf ears. A while later, at the training ground, Meng Chuan was immersed with the falling leaf saber technique. Chuaner. Meng Dejiang's voice rang out. Dad. Meng Chuan stopped and saw Meng Dejiang leading more than 10 people over. Meng Dejiang smiled and said, Chuaner, the clan has decided to spend more effort in nurturing you. From today onwards, these 8 marrow cleansing and 3 mortal shedding warriors will be your sparring partners. Don't I have bodyguards to spar with? Meng Chuan was surprised. He already had 8 marrow cleansing guards and 2 mortal shedding guards. They would occasionally accompany him during his saber training. They are guards. These are warriors who specialize in sparring. For example, among these 8 marrow cleansing warriors, there's one who's skilled in archery, and another who's skilled in projectiles. It will be of great help to your cultivation, said Meng Dejiang. Besides, as your guards, we can't let them spar with you often, right? Meng Chuan nodded. The guards were paid employees with well-defined job scopes. It was fine if they occasionally sparred with Meng Chuan, but doing so too often would result in exploitation complaints. There's no need to explain how much help these 3 mortal shedding realm experts can provide you. This, Meng Dejiang pointed at a thin, mustached man, is brother Wang Chang, a senior at the Seamless Realm. Senior Wang. Meng Chuan immediately bowed respectfully. A Seamless Realm expert enjoyed high status in East Com City. Wang Chang was second in command at an escort company in the city. There's no need to be this polite, young Master Meng. Wang Chang smiled. From now onwards, 6 Seamless Realm experts will spar with you every month. Each of them will accompany you during cultivation for 5 days, 2 hours a day, said Meng Dejiang solemnly. The family paid a great price to hire 6 Seamless Realm experts to spar with you. You need to make good use of this opportunity. Yes. Meng Chuan was also shocked. Seamless Realm experts were all important figures in the East Com prefecture. Time was precious, they couldn't spend a month training beside him daily. They had plenty of things to do after all. They were already generous if they were willing to spend 2 hours a day for 5 consecutive days sparring him. Yet, the family hired 6 Seamless Realm experts. Meng Chuan was guaranteed a Seamless expert to spar with every day. Chuaner, one must have great ambitions. There's no need to worry about not having a wife. You have to cultivate hard. Don't underachieve the family's expectations. After speaking, Meng Dejiang walked out. There's no need to worry about not having a wife. What did father mean by that? Dad, what do you mean by not needing to worry about not having a wife? Meng Chuan asked immediately. I don't want your imagination running wild, Meng Dejiang said and left the training ground. What imagination, mumbled Meng Chuan before looking at the nearby sparring experts. His eyes lit up. Saber techniques were meant for killing. With a sparring partner, the training results would be much better. Even though he had sparring partners in the past, how could it compare to what he had now? He had sparring partners ranging from the marrow-cleansing realm to the seamless realm. From this day onwards, Meng Chuan began practicing his saber art before dawn and enjoyed the benefit of having sparring partners in the morning. When it was in the afternoon or night time, he cultivated alone. He also needed to focus and reflect on the actual combat training he had in the mornings. As Meng Chuan's state of mind changed, he could sense the unique individual charm in each of the falling leaf saber's 81 stances since he fully immersed himself into the technique. He soon discovered the method to the secret technique, Third Autumn Leaf. He gradually realized that the beauty of the 81 stances could be combined after practicing them one after another. For example, the first stance was the saber drawing stance. It was incomparably sharp and mighty. The second stance, Whirling Moon stance, was bizarre and ethereal. When he switched to the third stance, Cloud Opening stance, it transformed from ethereality and bizarreness to a sudden killer move. He would then switch to the fourth stance. One move after another. It was like a boulder rolling down a mountain, its speed would increase faster and faster. The moves surged with unstoppable momentum as they followed one after another like torrential waves. If the 81 stances can really be combined into one, allowing its might to reach the peak, I would be able to naturally produce the secret technique as described in the manual. It was because he understood this point that Meng Chuan was so obsessed with practicing his saber art. If the beauty of the 81 stances combined into one, the blade would slice through the wind's trajectory, and its trajectory would perfectly connect. The speed and transformation of the saber art formed a rhythm. It was like a song of nature. A painting formed when the beauty of each move was combined. Because he vaguely came into contact with this realm, Meng Chuan's yearning for success grew. Day after day. The beauty of Meng Chuan's saber art became increasingly perfect as he removed the flaws. The rhythm of the saber art became more melodious as the staccato rhythm declined. The trajectory of the saber strokes were refined even further. Meng Chuan could acutely feel his improvement. He felt that he was getting closer to that realm. The vegetation by the side of the training grounds gradually turned green, a sign that March was fast approaching. As usual, Meng Chuan was cultivating. He gradually approached that realm, getting closer and closer. Whoosh. As Meng Chuan cultivated, his long pursuit for aesthetics was finally over. Flesh, bones, tendons, and heart, his technique had merged with his body. His saber art reached the state of being one with body and mind. He could sense the blade in his hand slicing through the resisting wind clearly. His body, mind, and saber united as the blade tore through the air with terrifying speed. When Meng Chuan used his saber art, a clone would appear more than 100 feet away. The two existed simultaneously. A faint saber arc could be seen midair. Only then did the first Meng Chuan dissipate. IIVE comprehended it. Meng Chuan stood in his spot, stunned. Support me on. To Translation Channel. Chapter 7, The Selection at Mirror Lake Deo Academy. Meng Chuan couldn't help but try again. In an instant, his body, mind, and technique were one. As he tore through the air with the saber flying around him, he saw after images left behind in the training grounds as stunning saber flashes appeared one after another. It was fast and ethereal. This was the characteristic of the secret technique, Third Autumn Leaf. His movement technique was fast and ethereal. His saber arts were also fast and ethereal. After trying it out over 10 times in a row, he finally came to a halt, unable to suppress his excitement. Third Autumn Leaf, the fall of a leaf portends the third season of the year autumn. I finally figured it out. I finally figured it out. I've finally reached the first major realm in saber arts unity. I, Meng Chuan, have a chance of becoming a god fiend. He was really excited. He began learning the falling leaf saber at the age of 11. 4 years had passed since then. He had never slacked off in the past 4 years, cultivating as hard as he could because he knew very well that there were many excellent cultivators during the foundational stages of saber arts. There were several such talents in every Dao Academy. There were even more when the 8 Dao Academies were combined. However, among these outstanding cultivators, 99% of them would be held back by the Unity realm. They would gradually become mediocre. It would be a miracle if they could reach the seamless realm in their lifetime. However, this was never his goal. He wanted to become a God Fiend. He had worked hard and studied hard, all for one goal: God Fiend. He couldn't forget being tied to his father's back when he was 6 years old as his father fled while resisting the demons. At the critical moment, his mother had taken the initiative to charge at the demons to buy time for them. It was all for the sake of her son. On his father's back, he saw his mother being overwhelmed by demons. At the time, Meng Chuan cried his heart out. Tears kept streaming down his father's cheeks, but he didn't turn around. He focused on escaping with all his might. In the end, Meng Chuan survived. The earlier one starts cultivation, the better. A mortal's body reaches its prime at the age of 20. Progress just slows down after that. Meng Chuan mused to himself, right now, the number 1 genius in East Com Prefecture Mei Yuanzi figured out the secret technique at 15 years of age. Just a month ago, he gained insights into Ice Force at 20. He is even able to live within the Jadasun Palace and cultivate there. Mei Yuanzi came from an ordinary family in East Com Prefecture. His mother was a maid, and his father was only at the mortal shedding realm. However, Mei Yuanzi had figured out the secret technique at the age of 15, shocking the Dao Academy. The Dao Academy immediately nurtured him to the best of their abilities. Even God-Fiend family clans also wanted to betroth girls from their direct lineage to him, but Mei Yuanzi was focused on cultivation. He was not tempted by the God-Fiend family clans at all. Finally, on January 12th, Mei Yuanzi figured out Ice Force. He barely made it in time by figuring out Force at the age of 20. This year, he had a chance to try his luck at entering the most ancient cultivation ground, Archean Mountain. According to the rules of Archean Mountain, one couldn't exceed the age of 20 when participating in the entrance test. I have reached the Unity realm. This is just the first step. There are still many thresholds like Saber Force and Core Condensation. Meng Chuan mumbled quietly. I can't slack off. He scanned his surroundings and noticed that he was the only person in the training ground. The vegetation was a luxuriant green. What a coincidence. Meng Chuan snapped out of his daze. Today is the February 27th. I actually made a breakthrough a day before the Dao Academy's internal selection. Sometimes, things in the world were just this coincidental. The next morning, Meng Chuan and Lu Qia were having breakfast. The entire Meng family were currently trying their best to groom the younger generation. They had hired seamless experts to be Meng Chuan's sparring partners. Meng Dejiang, who had comprehended Saber Force and was a seamless realm expert, naturally had to be put to use. He had recently been living in the ancestral mansion and teaching a large number of juniors in the clan. As for Meng Chuan, he had plenty of opportunities to receive his father's guidance. He was already very familiar with his father's teachings. However, Qia's father Lu Yebai was very mysterious. He spent most of the year outside. Chuan, your Dao Academy will be making the selections today, right? Lu Qia smugly said, I've already gotten a spot. I will get it today too, said Meng Chuan with a smile. You're that confident? Lu Qia asked with a smile. You're confident that you can obtain the top 3 in the Dao Academy even before you reach the perfected marrow cleansing realm. What if I get the spot? Lu Qia sized up Meng Chuan and chuckled. If you get it, I'll make you dinner for a month. But if you can't get that spot, you have to give me your gallant steeds. Do you dare to take on my bet? Meng Chuan laughed. His artistic skills had long surpassed the best artist in East Com Prefecture. Of course, there being few artists was partially a reason. Gallant Steeds was Meng Chuan's magnum opus. It was a piece of art on a long scroll. It consisted of 100 horses with different expressions. It took him over a year to draw it. Lu Qiu had been eyeing it ever since she lay her eyes on it. Even Yun Qingping had offered 3,000 silver taels and 2 pieces of precious jade for it after seeing it once. If I lose, I'll have to let go of gallant steeds. If I win, you'll only be making me dinner for a month. Isn't that a little unfair? Meng Chuan asked with hesitation. It's for 1 month. Do you dare? Lu Qiu stared at him. It's hard for you to make me a meal usually. All right, I'll take this bet. Meng Chuan clenched his teeth. Don't regret it when you lose. I should be the one saying that. Lu Qiu put down her utensils and stood up to leave. I'm going to the Dao Academy. Don't cower outside just because you lose at noon. Don't worry. Meng Chuan leisurely drank his porridge. Why would he reject his dear Qiu's offer to make him dinner for a full month? After he was done with his meal, he wiped the corner of his mouth and leisurely strode towards his Dao Academy. Mirror Lake Dao Academy. After arriving at the Dao Academy, he realized that many disciples had come to the arena. Senior brother Meng will definitely win. Senior brother Meng, you will definitely enter the top 3. Many of the junior brothers and sisters were extremely excited. All of them knew that today was the final selection. The Dao Academy also wanted them to watch the competition of their seniors from Mountain River Pavilion. As Meng Chuan was occasionally willing to give his juniors pointers, many of them supported him. Although I do wish for senior brother Meng Chuan to win, he honestly doesn't have the advantage. It's a battle between the top 10 disciples at the Marrow Cleansing Realm, so the chances of him clinching top 3 is really low. The first among equals was chosen between senior brother Wan Meng and senior brother Bai Guan in the most recent competition between the top 10 disciples. Therefore it's unquestionable the two will take up a spot. Many of the juniors engaged in heated discussions. Some of them blindly supported their favorites, while others provided clear analyses. However, all of them had a point in common: they were all waiting for the battle to begin. The arena had a 100-foot buffer, preventing the disciples from approaching. Meng Chuan and company arrived one after another as they waited. Lecturers checked their weapons, confirming that they were all blunt. A skinny man who reeked of alcohol walked over while carrying a wine jar. Dean. Dean. All the disciples were very respectful. Even the 22 disciples of Mountain River Pavilion bowed respectfully. This was the Dean of Mirror Lake Dao Academy, GEU. He had quite the terrible reputation, known for his greed and penchant for alcohol. He did things recklessly. All right, everyone is here. Although GEU's face was completely red and he reeked of alcohol, all of the disciples were very obedient. The lecturers and teaching assistants didn't dare mumble a word. He had earned his title of being the best at the Swift Saber. There are only 6 of you who are in the mortal shedding realm. The selection will be easy, GEU said. The 6 of you can compete first and we'll pick the top 3. Dean. A young man bowed and said, Brother Zhang and I have just reached the mortal shedding realm recently and are still at the early stages of the mortal shedding realm. We admit that we are lacking in strength and choose to give up on the competition. Dean, we have already battled last night. I lost all 3 battles, a muscular, dark-skinned youth said. Oh. GEU nodded when he heard that. He knew the strength of his disciples as well. All right, since that's the case, the ones heading to the Jadasun Palace's demon-slaying meet will be Wu Qi and the Wei brothers. Yes, Wu Qi and the other 2 replied respectfully. Wu Qi was at the perfected mortal shedding realm. The Wei brothers were at the late-stage mortal shedding realm, so they held a strength advantage. There are a total of 16 Mountain River Pavilion disciples at the Marrow Cleansing Realm. GEU looked at Meng Chuan and company. Every one of you can vie for it. I'll state the rules. Those who have confidence can enter the arena directly. You will face challenges from your fellow disciples. As long as you win 5 matches in a row, you will secure a spot. Also, 2 defeats will automatically disqualify you. All right, let's begin now. As Geu spoke, he hugged the wine jar and took a big gulp. The 16 Marrow Cleansing Realm disciples fell silent. To enter the arena and win 5 consecutive matches? Then, the first to enter the arena would be at a disadvantage. Vying for the third spot after 2 spots was taken would be much easier since the 2 strongest opponents were gone. Who's going first? Most of the Mountain River Pavilion disciples cast their gazes on 2 disciples, the muscular and smiling Wan Meng and the extremely cold and stern Bai Guan. In competitions involving the 10 strongest disciples, first place was typically decided between the 2 of them. Comment. You're not going up. Wan Meng smiled at Bai Guan. If you wish to, after you, Bai Guan said coldly. At this moment, a figure took a step forward and entered the arena. It was none other than Meng Chuan. He swept his gaze across the shocked fellow disciples and said, I guess the first spot will be mine. Chapter 8, Secret Technique, Third Autumn Leaf. Meng Chuan's actions truly shocked the other disciples of Mountain River Pavilion. He wasn't particularly outstanding at the pavilion, and he was a relatively young disciple. Although his father was the next clan leader of the Meng family, he didn't have the arrogance one would expect. His fellow disciples had good impressions of him, but this time, he had taken the initiative to enter the arena. He even said, I guess the first spot will be mine. It was truly an act that disregarded his seniors. Senior brother Meng went up. Why did he go first? It won't be too late to go up after the first 2 spots are taken. The juniors watching from afar were even more shocked. Even the drinking dean, Geu, was rather surprised. His greed and penchant for alcohol had him frequently taking advantage of Meng Dejiang, the owner of East Com Prefecture's best restaurant. He was also quite fond of Meng Dejiang's son, not only because Meng Chuan didn't stir up trouble using his family background, but also because of the benefits he received from Meng Dejiang. Hurry up, whoever wants to challenge Meng Chuan can go up, urged Geu. I'll do it. The cold-faced Bai Guan took a step forward and flew up the arena. His gaze towards Meng Chuan was cold as he sneered. Meng Chuan, you'll have to get by me first if you wish to take the first spot. He had come in first several times during competitions between the top 10 disciples at the Marrow Cleansing Realm and had only been defeated by Wan Meng once. Among the Mountain River Pavilion disciples in the Marrow Cleansing Realm, only Wan Meng, who was born with tremendous strength, left him keeping up his guard. He thought nothing of his other fellow disciples. He could have watched by the sidelines if Meng Chuan had been the first to enter the arena, but the words, I guess the first spot will be mine, propelled him to teach Meng Chuan a lesson. Please. Straightforward, not bad. Bai Guan unsheathed 2 long swords from his back. They were blunt because only unsharpened weapons were used in duels between fellow disciples. Bai Guan held a long sword in each hand. He stared at Meng Chuan and said, You fought me 7 times, but not once have you withstood 10 strikes. The art of dual-wielding swords is indeed powerful, praised Meng Chuan with a nod. The reason why Bai Guan was so strong that even Wan Meng, who was born with tremendous strength, had been lucky enough to defeat him only once, was because of his dual-wielding. A true dual sword expert needed to multitask efficiently. Each sword was seemingly used by 2 individual experts who worked in concert. In a battle against such a swordsman, an opponent would feel like they were facing a brutal assault from 2 swordsmen. All the other marrow cleansing disciples from the Mountain River Pavilion had been defeated by him. I admire your courage for being the first to enter the arena. Thus, I will use my killer move Heart Sunder to make you truly admit defeat. The proud and confident Bai Guan directly announced the move he was going to use. To teach Meng Chuan a lesson, he planned on using his best technique to crush him. Do as you wish. Meng Chuan wasn't in a hurry. Since he had already reached a brand new level by comprehending the secret technique, there was naturally no need for him to make the first move. It was better to let his opponent have a chance to execute a complete move. Swoosh. Bai Guan moved. He quickly moved with both swords in hand. Even though he was confident, he still used all his strength as he charged straight at Meng Chuan. His movement technique was very strange. One moment he appeared on the left, the next moment the right. This unpredictability made it difficult to determine his true location. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Meng Chuan, having traversed the arena. Kill. Bai Guan grinned at Meng Chuan as both swords struck to deliver heart sunder. In his opinion, even unsharpened swords could injure Meng Chuan if he was hit. Two swords streaked across Meng Chuan's body from two different directions. Huh. Bai Guan widened his eyes in disbelief because he clearly sensed that he had missed. He then felt a chill run down his spine. He turned around. Standing behind him, Meng Chuan held a saber to his neck. How can it be? How is he this fast? Bai Guan was in disbelief. I didn't even see it clearly. He didn't know why, but the enemy who had been right in front of him had appeared behind him. Even the saber was placed on his neck. Clearly, killing him was simple. Geu, who had been leisurely hugging his wine jar and drinking leisurely, was stunned. He widened his eyes in disbelief at this scene. Even the wine jar in his hand slipped and crashed to the ground, shattering. Alcohol flowed everywhere, but Dean Geu didn't even glance at his beloved alcohol. His gaze was completely fixed on Meng Chuan. The secret technique, third autumn leaf. The secret technique, third autumn leaf. Did I, Geu, manage to produce a disciple capable of it? Geu muttered to himself. He had been the dean for 15 years, but he had never managed to groom a genius who had a chance of becoming a god fiend. The lecturers and teaching assistants were also dumbfounded. Their sharp eyes could tell at a glance what move Meng Chuan just used. They also understood what it meant. It's the secret technique, third autumn leaf. The falling leaf saber's secret technique, third autumn leaf. To think our Mirror Lake Deo Academy has produced a disciple who has figured out the secret technique. He's only 15 years old this year. He managed to master it at 15. This can't be anything but the truth. Our Mirror Lake Deo Academy has produced a disciple who grasped the secret technique at 15. It's our Mirror Lake Deo Academy. Haha. These lecturers who had dedicated their lives to the Deo Academy were extremely excited. This was their most glorious moment. The goal of teaching so many disciples in a Deo Academy was to groom true geniuses who could one day become god fiends. Now that the Mirror Lake Deo Academy had produced such a genius, how could the lecturers not be excited? How could they not go crazy? If the dean and the others were excited, the thousands of disciples watching this scene went completely mad. Heavens! Am I seeing things? This is... I saw two senior brother Mengs, one in front of senior brother Bai, and one behind him. It's the secret technique, third autumn leaf. This is the secret technique of the falling leaf saber, third autumn leaf. The dean uses it during his lectures. It's the secret technique, third autumn leaf. All sorts of discussions erupted. Even the disciples from the Mountain River Pavilion were stunned. At that moment, from the dean to the ordinary disciples, everyone was discussing excitedly. Everyone knew what it meant to figure out the secret technique at 15. Swoosh. A disciple suddenly sprinted out of the bustling crowd. Right, return to the ancestral mansion and report it to the clan. Quick. Hurry back, and report the good news. There were several Meng family members in the Mirror Lake Deo Academy. When the first Meng family member ran out, one Meng family member after another rushed back home. They wanted to report this great piece of news. On one hand, they shared in his glory, and on the other hand, their family clan would also reward them because they reported the good news. It was natural for money to be given when reporting good news, especially when it was such great news. Swoosh. 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 The members of the Meng family were running at top speed using their movement techniques. Secret technique, third autumn leaf. On the stage, Bai Guan didn't manage to see it clearly. He heard the discussions around him and recalled the move that Meng Chuan had just executed. Only then did he understand that it was the secret technique, Third Autumn Leaf. You figured out the secret technique. Bai Guan stared at Meng Chuan with a complicated expression. Meng Chuan nodded. I've been stuck at this bottleneck for 2 years and have finally figured it out. Bai Guan was both jealous and envious. Wasn't he also stuck at a bottleneck? He was able to focus on dual wielding, giving him combat strength that far exceeded his peers, but he was still stuck at the bottleneck of a top-notch sword art's greater mastery. He also yearned to figure out the secret technique. No wonder you were the first to come up. Yes, you are now completely different from us. Bai Guan laughed self-deprecatingly and walked off the stage. No one paid Bai Guan any mind. Everyone's eyes were fixated on the 15-year-old youth who still looked like an adolescent. The disciples from Mountain River Pavilion were shocked and envious, including the 6 disciples at the Mortal Shedding Realm. None of them had figured out the secret technique. Most people who were at the Mortal Shedding Realm wouldn't be able to figure out the secret technique and be stuck at this realm their entire lives. Only by figuring out the secret technique could one reach the Seamless Realm. Ha ha ha. Dean Geu, whose clothes were soaked in alcohol, laughed loudly and proclaimed loudly, I was right to teach you the Falling Leaf Saber. Wu Qi. Wu Qi was stunned, but he still replied respectfully, yes, master. He was the strongest among the 6 Mortal Shedding Realm disciples in the Mirror Lake Dao Academy. He was 19 this year and had reached the perfected Mortal Shedding Realm. Go and fight with Meng Chuan. Geu's eyes lit up as he gave the order. I'll fight Wu Qi. Meng Chuan turned his head as well. Wu Qi was at the perfected stage of the Mortal Shedding Realm. He was the strongest disciple from Mirror Lake Dao Academy, the current eldest senior brother. Chapter 9, God-Fiend Body. Come on. Meng Chuan looked down from the arena, his eyes burning. Wu Qi was startled by the dean's order, but his eyes gradually lit up. He looked at Meng Chuan and grinned. All right, let's fight. Swoosh. He took a step and arrived at the arena, much faster than before. Clang. He moved the shield hanging from his back to his hand and pulled out a thick saber from the shield. This saber was completely black, a red glow surrounding it. With a shield in one hand and a thick saber in the other, Wu Qi stood there like an unshakable mountain. He released an invisible aura, causing the surrounding juniors to shudder. Senior brother Wu Qi, you cultivate a god-fiend body known as the Dark Cloud Fiend Body, am I right? Asked Meng Chuan. The aura causing him some alarm was clearly the aura of a god-fiend body. That's right. It's the Dark Cloud Fiend Body. After Wu Qi said that, he charged towards Meng Chuan. Despite charging forward alone, it felt as if a huge legion of soldiers was crashing down on him. There was no variation in the moves. It was purely a charge consisting of speed and strength. Boom. Wu Qi charged with his shield akin to a speedy phantom. He slammed his shield into Meng Chuan with might that could collapse even a house. With a single step, Meng Chuan dodged the shield and moved to Wu Qi's side. The saber flashed as it cleaved at him. Kill. The moment Wu Qi's shield missed, he very skillfully swung his thick saber, resulting in a collision with Meng Chuan's saber. Clang. Sparks flew when the two sabers collided. Wu Qi took a step back and steadied himself. In contrast, Meng Chuan flew back tens of feet. He's actually able to unleash such powerful might using the secret technique. Wu Qi's pupils constricted. Mortal cultivation, foundation establishment, internal tempering, marrow cleansing, mortal shedding, seamless. Among them, the first 3 cultivation levels were considered ordinary. They allowed one to cultivate quintessential energy, causing the mortal body to gradually grow stronger. The gap between them wasn't that great. However, the 4th level mortal shedding meant shedding one's mortal burdens. This was because mortals would possess a portion of God-Fiend power when they begin cultivating God-Fiend bodies. This increase in strength was astonishing. Wu Qi cultivated the dark cloud fiend body and had reached the perfected mortal shedding stage. His strength and speed was extremely terrifying, far exceeding those of the perfected marrow cleansing realm. If he were to deal with the average person at the marrow cleansing realm, he could chop his opponent to death in a single exchange. Even if someone at the marrow cleansing realm wielded a shield, they would still end up spitting out blood from the saber impact. The difference in strength was simply too great. The power he just released is almost 70% of mine. This is equivalent to my strength when I was at the late stage of the mortal shedding realm. Wu Qi was shocked. Is this the power of the secret technique? He had long known how terrifying the secret technique was. Even his chances of winning this battle were very low. I still have a chance of winning. Wu Qi gritted his teeth and charged forward again. He was like insolent cavalry as he charged forward. I'm still slightly weaker than him by relying on the power of the secret technique. Third Autumn Leaf is ultimately a secret technique that is more speed-based. Meng Chuan moved, producing another Meng Chuan 100 feet away. There he is. Wu Qi cultivated the dark cloud fiend body and was adept at sensing his surroundings. He could sense a figure was charging towards him. Compared to Bai Guan, who was unable to fight back, Wu Qi could detect him despite the secret technique Third Autumn Leaf being known for its speed. He was even able to respond. Boom. His thick saber chopped down with a swipe. Clang. His saber missed, but the shield in his hand blocked Meng Chuan's sudden saber strike. He's really fast. I still missed him. Wu Qi's heart tightened. Thankfully, he had carefully protected his unguarded areas with his shield. With shield and saber in each hand, he used a powerful skill from Mirror Lake Dao Academy, the duality shield saber technique. There was a high chance of surviving a battle when one used this top-notch skill. Therefore, Wu Qi had chosen the dark cloud fiend body that suited this powerful skill. With the duality shield saber technique combined with his dark cloud fiend body, his defense was flawless and his attacks were ferocious. He was the number one among the Mirror Lake Dao Academy disciples at the mortal shedding realm thanks to this. Duality shield saber technique Wan Yang is indeed powerful. However, I wonder how many of my moves you can parry. As Meng Chuan's voice continued to echo, he lunged forward. It's useless. You won't be able to hurt me. Wu Qi stood his ground, using his saber and shield to block Meng Chuan's ethereal blade. Pft. Pft. Swoosh. Meng Chuan's movements were extremely fast as one saber flash after another appeared. It was none other than the falling leaf saber. In the beginning, Wu Qi was rather confident of his defense, but he found parrying the attacks increasingly difficult as Meng Chuan's repetitive strikes formed a continuous combo. His stance changed after every successful block. Through the continuous saber combo, Meng Chuan was able to tear apart his defense. In just 6 strikes, Wu Qi staggered backward as he barely put up a defense. Qi. An extremely quick stab. Wu Qi didn't even have time to brandish his shield to block before the tip of the blade was already at his throat. This. Wu Qi looked at the saber that was pressing against his throat before looking at Meng Chuan. This was the first time he had fought someone at the marrow cleansing realm who had grasped the secret technique. He had lost terribly. I've lost, Wu Qi said in a low voice. The secret technique is even more terrifying than I thought. Not only can it produce a terrifying speed and strength, but it also improves the finesse of your saber arts. Meng Chuan nodded. Yes. A secret technique was the combination of body, mind, and technique, so it could naturally release terrifying strength. An ancient god fiend had once said that a human's body had tremendous potential. A mortal who had never trained before would find it difficult to carry 50 kilograms of weight. However, if he could perfectly use his potential by utilizing every bone and muscle, he would be able to unleash more than 5,000 kilograms of strength. Of course, that was an ideal case where every ounce of potential was used. In reality, the higher one's mastery of saber arts, the more astonishing the potential one could use. The Unity Realm was the first major realm for saber arts. The secret technique, Third Autumn Leaf, multiplied strength and speed. It allowed Meng Chuan's strength to reach roughly 70% of Wu Qi's strength, who was at the perfected mortal shedding realm, and his speed crushed Wu Qi's. Furthermore, his control of the saber was more refined. The saber moves perfectly coordinated with each other. Just 7 strikes were enough to break through Wu Qi's duality shield saber technique, which was renowned for its defense. From this day forth, you will be considered the strongest out of thousands of disciples from Mirror Lake Dao Academy. Wu Qi looked at Meng Chuan and said, "You will be the eldest senior brother of Mirror Lake Dao Academy's current generation." In Mirror Lake Dao Academy, the accomplished came first. The eldest senior brother of the Dao Academy was the strongest amongst all the disciples. After defeating Wu Qi, Meng Chuan naturally became the eldest senior brother of the Dao Academy. With that said, Wu Qi walked off the stage. Suddenly, many of the juniors began to shout, "Eldest senior brother Meng Chuan! Eldest senior brother! Eldest senior brother!" Being the eldest senior brother was just a title, whether he deserved respect was another matter. The few Mirror Lake Dao Academy eldest senior brothers in the past didn't enjoy much prestige since their strength didn't stand out much. They did not manage to comprehend the secret technique. There was not much difference in their skills compared to their peers, so it was very possible they might be defeated by other juniors during matches in the future. But Meng Chuan was different. He had figured out the secret technique and defeated Wu Qi, who had reached the perfected mortal shedding realm. Furthermore, Meng Chuan would soon reach the mortal shedding realm as well. When that happened, the gap between him and his fellow disciples would become even more exaggerated. Even someone at the mortal shedding realm wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike from him. Only an absolutely invincible eldest senior brother would be able to completely impress all his juniors. Ha ha ha! Dashdeen Geu chuckled. "All right, come down." It was rare for him to be so amiable. Let the other juniors at the marrow cleansing realm fight to determine the other 2 slots. Yes. Meng Chuan immediately walked down. "Greetings, senior brother Meng." Wan Meng cupped his hands and bowed with a smile. "Greetings, senior brother Meng." The disciples of Mountain River Pavilion around him saluted him with a smile. Some of his fellow disciples had a slight fawning attitude. They knew very well that Meng Chuan was completely different from them. He was a peerless genius in the entire East Com prefecture, one who had a chance of becoming a god fiend in the future. Swoosh. 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 One by one, the Meng family disciples rushed back to the ancestral mansion with everything they had. "Why are all you brats running so fast?" The main entrance to the Meng family's ancestral mansion was huge, and clan members were naturally guarding it. They also recognized these juniors. The first person to charge to the ancestral mansion shouted loudly, startling the clansmen guarding at the door. "Meng Chuan has figured out the secret technique." While they were dumbfounded, the youth rushed into the ancestral mansion and continued shouting loudly. Meng Chuan figured out the secret technique. The other Meng family members finally reached their destination as well. All of them were shouting. Meng Chuan figured out the secret technique. Senior brother Meng figured out the secret technique. Meng Chuan figured out the secret technique at Mirror Lake Dao Academy. Support me on 2 Translation Channel. Chapter 10, Family Clan's Hope. The Meng family disciples who rushed in all shouted loudly and excitedly. They instantly attracted a large number of clansmen in the ancestral mansion. All of them were stunned by what they heard. What? Did they hear wrongly? Meng Chuan had figured out the secret technique. Stop right there. One of the clansmen grabbed a sprinting youth and said hurriedly, "Tell me clearly what happened." "Uncle, it's brother Meng Chuan." The youth was only 13 years old. At that moment, he said happily, "Today is the day our Mirror Lake Dao Academy held the selection." Brother Meng Chuan went up to the stage and used the secret technique of the falling leaf saber, Third Autumn Leaf. Even the dean and lecturers are thrilled. The secret technique of the falling leaf saber, third autumn leaf. The muscular clansman's eyes widened. Isn't he just 15 this year? He managed to figure out the secret technique at 15. The entire ancestral mansion's clansmen surrounded the youth as they inquired. It turned into a cacophony of excitement. A bald and thin elder narrowed his eyes as he listened to all the chatter. His eyes lit up when he heard the youths all talking at once. He couldn't help but mutter, "The heavens have blessed our Meng family." Third elder, it's a joyous occasion. Meng Chuan figured out the secret technique. A clansman ran over. I'm aware. The thin elder wore his usual stoic look as he turned around and left. He was the strictest elder in the Meng family, however, when he turned around and walked away, there was a faint curl on the corners of his lips. The Meng family's ancestral mansion occupied a large amount of land. After all, over 2,000 clansmen lived there. In one of the training grounds in the ancestral mansion, a group of youths was practicing with a variety of weapons while the chubby Meng Dejiang sat by the side, watching. Why is it so noisy outside? Meng Dejiang frowned slightly. Following that, the Din approached. With his strength as a seamless realm expert, he could make out the keywords Meng Chuan and figured out the secret technique. Meng Dejiang perked up. It was like a bucket of cold water had been poured over him in the middle of winter. He was even a little confused. Did I hear wrongly? Meng Dejiang was a little nervous, but he couldn't help standing up and walking towards the entrance of the training grounds. Dejiang! Dejiang! An elegant elder came over with a group of clansmen. The elder's face was flushed red with extreme joy and excitement. Fifth Uncle Meng Dejiang immediately went forward. What happened? Great news! Great news! The elegant elder was very excited. Oh! Meng Dejiang was both excited and nervous. Although he had some guesses, he still wanted to hear it spelled out completely. The elegant elder immediately said, "Some of the young ones studying at Mirror Lake Dao Academy returned to inform us that your son Meng Chuan used the secret technique, third autumn leaf, during the Dao Academy's selection match. It was witnessed by the dean, lecturers, and thousands of disciples. It can't be any more real. Ha ha ha. The heavens have blessed our Meng family. Our Meng family is blessed. Chuaner used the secret technique, third autumn leaf." Meng Dejiang felt his head heat up as his heart burned. That was his son. Dejiang, your son is amazing. Our Meng family is going to rise. We might even have 2 god fiends, the clansman said excitedly. Apart from the clan leader and elders, ordinary clansmen didn't know Fairy Meng had been seriously injured. Elders, Fairy Meng has summoned you. A clansman came to pass the order. We'll be there in a second. Meng Dejiang and the elegant elder rushed over. However, Meng Dejian had a bounce in his steps, finding everything surreal. Fairy Meng and clan leader Meng Yanping had been playing chess, but their match had now come to a halt. There were 8 elders gathered in the yard. All of them were extremely excited. Some elders who weren't at the ancestral mansion and had yet to catch wind of the news. Those rascals ran very quickly. The thin, bald elder was rather excited. They were talking about how Meng Chuan used the third autumn leaf secret technique. This is great. He managed to figure out the secret technique at 15. His talent is no less than Mei Yuanzi's. Dejiang, you have a good son. It's also thanks to Dejiang's teachings. The elders of the family clan spoke excitedly. Meng Dejiang laughed foolishly. He felt like today was his happiest day in recent years. I'll rest in peace having learned this news. The heavens have blessed our Meng family. The elders had always been afraid their family clan would decline. Although they were approaching the end of their lifespans, they still hoped the family clan would prosper. The flourishing of a family clan meant that their brothers and clansmen as well as children and grandchildren could live well. Over countless years, there was no divide in the family clan. Look at all of you. The seated Fairy Meng smiled. It's indeed a joyous occasion for the child to be able to comprehend the secret technique, but you are all counting your chickens. This stunned all the elders. Fairy Meng said, Meng Chuan has only taken the first step. He's still far from becoming a god fiend. He still needs to figure out Saber Force, condense his core, and survive the final life and death juncture. These are the three major thresholds. Don't put him on a pedestal too early, or it might get to his head. He needs to cultivate more seriously. It's best if he can figure out Saber Force before he turns 20. That way, there's still a 30% chance of entering Archean Mountain. If he can enter Archean Mountain, he will definitely become a god fiend. Archean Mountain. The eyes of clan leader Meng Yanping and the other elders lit up. It was the most ancient cultivation ground in the world. Mysterious and powerful. In the past century, only the patriarch of the Zhang family had successfully entered Archean Mountain. The Zhang family had also become the leader of the 5 major god-fiend clans in East Com Prefecture. If Meng Chuan can't enter Archean Mountain, his cultivation path will be fraught with difficulty, said Fairy Meng. Back then, I figured out the secret technique at 16. I only figured out Force at 22, barring my entry into Archean Mountain. I could only be considered an outer sect disciple of Archean Mountain. I was lucky to become a god fiend after a close encounter with death. There were people with talent on par with mine back then, but only I became a god fiend. The rest died. Not only does Meng Chuan have the 3 thresholds Saber Force, Core Condensation, and Life and Death, he also needs to figure out Saber Force before he turns 20, said Fairy Meng solemnly. The elders present also calmed down. Becoming a god fiend was truly very difficult. The current Meng Chuan was just a seedling with a chance of becoming a god fiend. He simply allowed the family clan to see hope. Daejiang instructed Fairy Meng. Go to Mirror Lake Dao Academy and bring Meng Chuan back. Have him prepare for the Jadasun Palace's demon-slaying meet. After it's over, Meng Chuan should have calmed down. Bring him to me when that happens. Yes, said Meng Daejiang respectfully. All of you can take your leave, instructed Fairy Meng. Remember, don't put Meng Chuan on a pedestal too much. Making him arrogant will just ruin him. Yes, the elders replied solemnly. Whoever dared to ruin Meng Chuan would be the sworn enemy of the entire Meng family. Soon, the elders left. Only Fairy Meng and her brother were left in the yard. Third sis, you almost scared them. Meng Yanping laughed. I know you are very happy. Of course I'm happy. Only then did Fairy Meng sigh poignantly. I've been a god fiend for nearly 80 years. I've made plenty of contributions to Archean Mountain, and I have many good friends. If my family doesn't have any exceptional talents, all I've done would be for naught. Since Meng Chuan has shown some talent, I'll do my best to help him. He will definitely tread a road much smoother than mine. Yes. He will definitely become a god fiend, said Meng Yanping. He will. Fairy Meng's eyes were filled with anticipation. At the Mirror Lake Dao Academy, the disciples around him kept shouting, Senior Brother Meng. They were extremely enthusiastic. Meng Chuan nodded slightly and continued walking out. Just as he reached the main entrance, he saw a group of people standing outside the main gates of the Dao Academy. Leading them was the plump Meng Daejiang. Beside him was the bald, thin elder, the elegant elder, and several other family clan elders. Dad. Elders. Meng Chuan walked over. You rascal. Meng Daejiang ruffled Meng Chuan's hair and smiled. You really gave me a fright. Meng Chuan could only bear the ruffling of his hair. He looked a little pitiful, but in reality, he was in an exceptionally good mood. Haha, even we were shocked. Meng Chuan, well done. The elders of the family clan smiled and congratulated. Clearly, they were elated. Come, let's go home, said Meng Daejiang happily. What more could he ask for with a son like this? Okay. Meng Chuan answered and went home with his father and elders. Chapter 11, Visiting Jadasun Palace Lord. East Com Prefecture, inside the only private room on the third floor of a restaurant. Yun Fuan leisurely drank as he listened to the tunes. By the side, a cyan-clothed woman was gently playing the zither while singing. Yun Fuan swayed his head to the tune, fully immersed in the music. The song came to an end. Zionjian, your rendition of this song is becoming more outstanding. My heart almost melted from your singing, Yun Fuan smiled. Brother Yun, you flatter me. I'm still far from that. I still need to learn from teacher, said the cyan-clothed woman. It's different. Your teacher's skills are brilliant, but she's old. How can her voice be comparable to yours? Singing still depends on talent. Your voice is superb. Whatever you sing is nice, Yun Fuan praised. Then allow me to sing another song for you, Brother Yun. The blue-dressed woman covered her mouth and giggled before she began plucking the zither strings. She had to keep Yun Fuan happy. The patriarch of the Yun family had a total of 5 sons and 1 daughter. Among them were the 3 eldest brothers who had gone through all sorts of hardships during their childhood, experiencing calamities with their father. They were all experts at the seamless realm now. 2 of them had figured out force and were extremely skilled. They were known as the 3 heroes of the Yun family. On the other hand, the 3 youngest children hadn't suffered much hardship. For example, Yun Fuan's father had already become a god fiend when Yun Fuan was young. This allowed him to lead a carefree life. At the time, the Yun family patriarch had just broken through and was still focused on cultivation. He had no time to discipline his children. Thus, his 3 youngest children were somewhat useless. Yun Fuan was a little special. As the youngest son, he had grown up with a group of scions, so he was quite the sly one. He was good at reading someone's body language, he was skilled at trampling and praising different kinds of people. He was also well versed in many dirty tricks. The 3 heroes of the Yun family liked this younger brother of theirs quite a bit due to his astuteness. They allowed their younger brother to handle many things without any worries, and he also completed the tasks beautifully. Thus, Yun Fuan wielded a lot of power and authority. He was responsible for many matters in the family clan. A single word from him could cause a famous character to disappear from the world. Likewise, he could turn a particular lady into a star. Yun Fuan listened to the tune and softly hummed to it. Suddenly, a commotion broke out in the restaurant. The loud noise made Yun Fuan frown slightly. The private room was soundproof, and there was only one room on the top floor of the 3-storied building. It was very quiet, but the noise was quite loud. What's going on? Yun Fuan frowned, and said, Afu, go down and see what's going on. Yes, master. The servant outside immediately went down. The servant soon returned and immediately said, Master, something serious has happened. Yun Fuan stretched out his hand, and the cyan-clothed woman immediately stopped playing the zither. Once there was serious business, there was no way she could affect this man. She knew her limits. Come in and tell me, Yun Fuan instructed. The servant pushed the door open and said in a low voice, It isn't only this restaurant, the entire East Com prefecture is abuzz. It's all because of young master Meng Chuan. What's up with him? Yun Fuan frowned, a trace of disdain appearing on the corner of his lips. He didn't think much of the Meng family anymore. His Yun family was on the rise, while the Meng family was on the decline. Meng Chuan showcased the falling leaf saber secret technique 3rd autumn leaf at the Mirror Lake Dao Academy. He's even defeated the original eldest senior brother Wu Qi, who was in the perfected mortal shedding realm. He's become the eldest senior brother of his Dao Academy. The servant said, he defeated somebody at the perfected mortal shedding realm by using the secret technique. Despite only being at the marrow cleansing realm, he figured out the saber secret technique, master. Yun Fuan, whose face had completely darkened, shouted, Get out. The servant didn't dare make a sound, he obediently left and closed the door behind him. Yun Fuan brooded in silence before standing up and walking to the window. When he opened the window, the sound of the streets outside grew louder. Keywords like Meng Chuan and secret technique could still be heard. This matter had become the talk of the town in all of East Com Prefecture. This kid made a breakthrough? Yun Fuan's face was gloomy. Humph. So what if he figured out the secret technique? He's still far from becoming a god fiend. Bang. He slammed the windows shut. The other 3 god fiend family clans in the East Com Prefecture found it interesting as well. This was because not long ago, the Yun family had just terminated the engagement between the 2 families. That engagement happened to be between Yun Qingping and Meng Chuan. If the Yun family knew Meng Chuan would grasp the secret technique at 15 years of age, their decision would have been different. However, how minuscule was the possibility of a peerless genius being born? The Yun family didn't dare delay matters. Under normal circumstances, the engagement would be acted upon once one was 18 because they would have to serve the military at 20. Therefore, the Yun family didn't wish to delay the matter. Annulling the engagement early was for the best. He has only grasped the secret technique. He's still far from becoming a god fiend. The Yun family could only console themselves. At the Mirror Lake Meng Manor. Chuan, tell me the truth. Had you already broken through when you made the bet with me? Lu Qiu stared at Meng Chuan. You're smart. Meng Chuan smiled and nodded. However, I had just broken through back then. Why you? Lu Qiu was at a loss for words. I already told you that I would get the spot, but you refused to believe me and insisted on betting with me. Who is to be blamed? Meng Chuan laughed. What? Are you going back on your word? Lu Qiu raised her head high. Lu Qiu, never go back on my word. I'm impressed. I admire you, Sister Qiu, he immediately complimented her. Then I'll be waiting for a consecutive month's worth of dinner made by my dearest sister Qiu. Just treat it as a gift for figuring out the secret technique. Lu Qiu was a little indignant. I didn't expect you to be so cunning. Chuaner. A voice came from afar. Father is calling for me. I'll be off first. Meng Chuan immediately ran off. Lu Qiu scoffed. Big liar, what a good liar. However, you are quite impressive. You actually managed to achieve unity with your saber art. On the training grounds. Dad. Meng Chuan stood in front of his father. I'm very happy you achieved a breakthrough in your saber art. Meng Dejiang looked at his son and said, but don't let it get to your head. There are still the 3 thresholds, force, core condensation, and life and death awaiting you. Every step you take will be extremely difficult. There are very few people who can help you. It will all mostly depend on yourself. I understand. You've been cultivating diligently since you were young, so I won't say anything else. Cultivate hard and become a god fiend. Meng Dejiang said encouragingly. Yes. Meng Chuan nodded. It's been a while since we sparred. Come, let's spar, said Meng Dejiang with a laugh. Come on. Meng Chuan was filled with fighting spirit. But, his father was a seamless expert who had figured out saber force. He was considered one of the strongest in East Com Prefecture beneath the God Fiend realm. He could devastate his son however he wished. In the evening, Meng Chuan was painting a long piece of scroll art in the study room. He was only partially done since he started yesterday after figuring out the 3rd autumn leaf. There were scenes of him training hard, a scene of him defeating Wu Qi in the Dao Academy arena, and scenes of his father and elders congratulating him when he exited the Dao Academy. It included his father ruffling his hair with a flabbergasted Lu Qiu drawn to the side. He smiled as he drew. He was completely immersed in his thoughts, and the feelings within him integrated into the tip of his brush. The more intense the feelings infused into the painting, the more infatuated he became. Some time later, after he finished painting, Meng Chuan glanced out and saw that it was getting dark outside. He wrote the 3 words, "Third autumn leaf," to the left of the painting. This painting was called Third Autumn Leaf. Meng Chuan felt extremely serene when looking at the painting. In the bustling East Com prefecture, a white-robed youth led an old servant through the streets. "East Com prefecture is quite lively," said the white-robed youth expressionlessly. "This is a city with a population of over 1 million. It would naturally be lively." The old servant smiled. "Young master, are we going to stay in East Com prefecture for the next few years? How about we go to the state capital? This is my mother's hometown." "I'll be staying here," the white-robed youth said coldly. The old servant was helpless. Nobody could control the young master with his temper. Suddenly, they heard people discussing on the streets. "Young master Meng Chuan is impressive to have figured out the secret technique. He's only 15 this year, right?" "Yes, he's 15. In my opinion, young master Meng Chuan will probably become a god fiend in the future." Hearing the discussions, the old servant chuckled softly as well. "I didn't expect that there would be such a genius in East Com prefecture. He happens to be the same age as you." "Meng Chuan," murmured the white-robed youth inwardly. "Young master, let's go this way. The Jadasun Palace is up ahead," said the old servant. "We have to pay a visit to Jadasun Palace Lord first." "Okay." The white-robed youth nodded. Chapter 12, Demon Slaying Meat. March 3rd. 2 large carriages stopped outside the Jadasun Palace's entrance. The Dean of Mirror Lake Deo Academy Ge Yun disembarked from the first carriage while 6 people alighted from the carriage behind. They were none other than the 6 Mirror Lake Deo Academy's disciples that included Meng Chuan, Wu Qi, and Wan Meng. The spacious carriage gave plenty of space to the 6 without making it appear cramped. Jadasun Palace. The 6 of them raised their heads and stared at the palace. Jadasun Palace was considered sacred ground in East Com prefecture. Jadasun Palace Lord was also the most powerful existence in the East Com prefecture. The legendary Archean Mountain built a Jadasun Palace in every city within the Great Zhou dynasty. It also sent a disciple to preside over each Jadasun Palace. Jadasun Palace Lord was the most powerful force when it came to protecting a prefecture. In the past century or so, the most powerful god fiend in East Com prefecture, the Zhang family's patriarch, had also been recruited into Archean Mountain. Now, he too was stationed somewhere else. "Follow me in." Ge Yu led the way and his 6 disciples entered the Jadasun Palace. At that moment, several luxurious carriages arrived behind them and people alighted from the carriage. Meng Chuan and company looked back. Oh. Meng Chuan saw Yun Qingping and Yun Fuan. Yun Fuan had even brought his wife along. The Jadasun Palace's demon-slaying meet is a rare event for East Com prefecture. The imperial court and the 5 major god-fiend families will send people here too, said Ge Yu casually. However, each family clan is limited to 10 people at most. It's Meng Chuan. Yun Qingping, together with her clansmen, saw Meng Chuan as well. At that moment, she felt rather conflicted. After all, she had previously been informed that he was the man to marry her, that she was to spend the rest of her life with him when she became of age. Although the engagement had been successfully annulled, her impression of him was different from others. Besides, the engagement had just been called off right before Meng Chuan suddenly made a name of himself by figuring out the secret technique. He was now an illustrious genius in the entire East Com prefecture. Even her clansmen and friends had plenty to say about this matter. It caused her to feel unsettled. However, Yun Qingping knew very well that she didn't regret it. No matter how powerful Meng Chuan was, he was not what she wanted. All of you are to watch carefully, said the rather stocky Yun family clan leader Yun Fukan. He looked at the 6 young juniors and said, "When you turn 20 and serve in the military, you will be battling the demons in life and death battles. You now have the chance to personally witness the demon's ferocity. If anyone closes their eyes from fright, you will be punished with isolation for 10 days. Yes, Dad, Yun Qingping, and the other 5 youths replied obediently. Yun Fukin, the eldest son of the Yun family's patriarch, was the most outstanding among the 3 heroes. He had contributed greatly during his military service at Kinyang Pass. He not only figured out force, but he had also succeeded in condensing his core. However, he had damaged his foundation after casting a forbidden spell for too long during an intense battle with demons. This wiped out his chances of becoming a god fiend. Brother, let's hurry in. Let's not block the entrance to the palace. Yun Fuan immediately laughed. He always wore a smiling face in front of his eldest brother. Even if he was scolded by his eldest brother, he would obediently endure it. He had no choice. The military at Kinyang Pass and the imperial court held his brother Yun Fukin in high esteem. Yun Fukin nodded. All right, let's go in. The 2 brothers led their wives and their 6 juniors into Jadasun Palace. In an empty square in Jadasun Palace, there was a large arena. There were many chairs placed around the arena. Seats were designated for the 8 major Dao academies, 5 large family clans, Imperial Court, and Jadasun Palace. Meng Chuan naturally sat where Mirror Lake Dao Academy's seats were located. Chuaner. The clan leader Meng Yanping and Meng Dejiang had brought 8 juniors from the Meng family over to broaden their horizons. Meng Dejiang even winked at Meng Chuan. This dad of mine, Meng Chuan muttered. The various large family clans brought plenty of juniors. Meng Chuan soon discovered that the 5 large family clans typically had 2 or 3 high-ranking members leading a group of juniors. It was to allow the juniors to broaden their horizons. Only the Yun family is different. Yun Fukin and Yun Fuan both brought their wives. Ah, that's right. There are only 6 juniors between the ages of 6 to 20 in the Yun family. The Yun family had too few members. The Yun family's patriarch was the first generation. The second generation consisted of 5 sons and a daughter. The third generation was Yun Qingping's generation. There were only a few dozen people in the Yun family. When they participated in the Cloud Yang Palace's demon-slaying meet, all juniors of suitable age would be brought here. They could even bring their wives over. As for the juniors from the other 4 large families, they had intense internal competitions just to spectate the battle. Jadasun Palace Lord is here. Everybody present stood up in unison. Even the magistrate that came from the imperial court stood up and took the initiative to welcome him. Jadasun Palace Lord? Meng Chuan looked from afar. He was a tall, muscular young man. His entire body seemed to be carved out of jade. He seemed to be the most dazzling existence in the world as he walked forward. His eyes glistened. Whoever he looked at would irresistibly bow their heads, not daring to meet his eyes. This was the most powerful figure in East Com Prefecture, its guardian. He was also a god fiend that came from Archean Mountain. Jadasun Palace Lord walked to the seat of honor and sat down. Although he was seated, people could sense an invisible aura envelop the area. Even the uninhibited and unrestrained Dean Geu carefully obeyed the rules in front of Jadasun Palace Lord. Oh? Only then did Meng Chuan and company notice that behind Jadasun Palace Lord stood a thin, frail-looking teenager and a white-robed youth. That skinny, frail-looking teenager is Mei Yuan Zi. Who is the white-robed youth? Meng Chuan was somewhat puzzled. Senior brother Meng, do you know who that white-robed youth is? Wan Meng asked softly. No. Meng Chuan shook his head. It's one thing for Mei Yuan Zi to stand behind Jadasun Palace Lord, but who is that white-robed youth? Soft murmurs were occurring in other places as well. Everyone had noticed the white-robed youth. At that moment, the prefectural magistrate took a few steps forward and surveyed his surroundings. In a clear voice, he said, "Everyone, the Jadasun Palace's demon-slaying meet is held once every 3 years. It's an event decided by Archean Mountain. It is meant to train the youths from various prefectures and allow young heroes to have a chance to fight demons before entering the battlefield. They can truly experience the strength of the demons. This way, they will have a higher chance of survival once they enter the battlefield. Everyone, you have to understand the good intentions of Archean Mountain. Listen carefully to the rules of this demon-slaying meet, the magistrate said in a loud, clear voice. If you realize that you can't withstand the demons when engaging them in a life-and-death battle, all you need to do is jump off the arena to live. You don't have to worry about any accidents, because with the palace lord around, nothing will happen. As he spoke, the magistrate smiled at Jadasun Palace Lord. Outsiders are not allowed to interfere with anything that happens in the arena. There should be no complaints or resentment even if they die in battle. These are the rules of the demon-slaying meet. Nobody is allowed to violate them, the magistrate said coldly. I'll tell you this first. There have been people who died in the arena. Some have been crippled as well. If you are afraid, you can give up this opportunity. No one would give up. The battlefield would be much more dangerous than this while serving in the military. If they gave up the chance now, they would be looked down upon by the entire Eastcom prefecture. All right, then let's begin the demon-slaying meet. After saying this, the magistrate returned to his seat. A jail wagon slowly drove over. An upright, fat pig demon was locked inside the jail wagon. It was about 12 feet tall and was covered in black fur. Its eyes were filled with hatred as it stared at the people sitting outside the cage. Be good, said a one-armed man who pulled the jail wagon. Upon hearing the man's voice, the pig demon trembled, a hint of fear in its eyes. As long as you secure victory in the arena, you will be able to eat your fill. As long as you can kill a human youth, you will enjoy 10 days of good food and wine, the one-armed man said. But you are not allowed to leave the arena. If you dare to leave the arena, you will be sliced to death. I know. The pig demon's voice was low as it spoke human words. The jail wagon arrived beside the arena. The cage's door was opened. Go up, the one-armed man said coldly. With a single step, the pig demon leaped onto the arena. Its wrists were shackled by heavy chains. The chains struck the arena's ground when the pig demon landed. Meng Chuan could vaguely sense the tremendous power within the pig demon when he stared at it. The black pig hair was tough, no weaker than heavy armor. The pig demon was currently staring at its surroundings with killing intent. To it, every human around it was an archenemy. The madness in its eyes, the intense hatred, and killing intent caused the hearts of some human youths to tremble. The youngest 8-year-old child from the Yun family was so frightened that the color in his face drained as he tightly hugged his mother. You're not allowed to hug your mother. Yun Fuan berated his son before coldly glaring at his wife. An excessively doting mother will only spoil a child. At this moment, an official from the imperial court flipped through the name list and said loudly, the disciples at the marrow cleansing stage shall head into the arena first. The first one is Zhang Rusheng from the Blazing Sun Academy. Support me on